Hi everyone, welcome back to Susan Dawn Spiritual Connections and Susan Dawn Ascension Connections through our Ascension Connections portal. It's always interesting to me what comes through and the way that it comes through. I have been under the weather and having a little bit of a health flare, and so I've been mindful of my energy, been managing my energy. And part of that has been allowing myself to rest and recover as I need to. And part of that has been allowing myself just to take a step back and rest in bed if I need to indulge in some movies or some TV shows or music or whatever it is that I feel my body and my soul needs at this time. Well, over the past couple of days, I have been listening to the Broadway show Hadestown nonstop. And I'm a big lover of musicals, big lover of music as a whole. And I receive a lot of downloads with regards to the Twin Flame journey, Sacred Union Path of Ascension, the Ascension journey through music and through musicals specifically, because that is something that I love. That is the language that I speak, art, books, movies, all that stuff is the language that I speak. And so that's where I get a lot of information and insight when it comes to the Sacred Union Path of Ascension, what I call the Sacred Union Path of Ascension. So I've had Hadestown on my radar for a number of years, and yet every time I went to listen to it, even though I had interest in it, it never felt right. It never fully clicked. The music didn't click, or I wasn't in the mood for it, or something, or I was listening to something else. However, everything comes in its divine timing, and I'm learning to trust that process. As somebody who, like me, is passionate about my work, loves my work, wants to work, taking a step back isn't always easy. But I've recognized these past couple of months that taking a step back is actually what helps to refuel, helps to fill that cup, helps to fill those coffers, so to speak. And even in taking a step back, what it looks like on the physical, you're nurturing that energy. There's still a forward movement energetically that's being created. And you can apply this to your path as a whole. You can apply this to your connection as a whole. Even if it feels or looks like nothing is happening on the surface, we all know that there's more than meets the eye. We all know that there's more happening underneath the surface than what it seems to be, than what it appears to be. That everything that we experience and everything that we see in our physical world is not all there is. Energy is constantly moving, and we ourselves are constantly evolving. Even if you are in a place of what feels like a void. And they're bringing me back to when I was first diagnosed with Lyme disease and chronic illness back in 2012, and how even when I literally couldn't get out of bed, I literally could not walk, I was reading as much as I could. And when I say as much as I could, I mean literally I could only read and comprehend a line a day at times, maybe even a paragraph if it was a good day. Or I was filling up on watching movies because that was literally all that I could do when I wasn't sleeping. I'm not at that place now. Thank God. I am not anywhere near there, even with a health flare. So I am not concerned. I'm not worried. And I don't want you to be either. But they're bringing me back to that to remind me that even in that time when I was bedridden, that things were still happening just step by step and step by step and little by little. And when you look back, that's when you can see the full architecture of your journey. That's when you can see how everything is a stepping stone, everything is a building block. And sometimes we can only see that in hindsight. So they're bringing me back to that to remind me that even and remind us that even in this void like experience, we're receiving downloads, we're receiving insight. There's something that we're learning through this experience. That everything is an opportunity for us to experience. Everything is an opportunity for our soul growth. And so I feel like it was only in having this downtime that I would actually allow myself to lay in bed and listen to the soundtrack and find the bootlegs and watch the bootlegs. Shh, don't tell. And watch the bootlegs of this show. It was only in this downtime that I gave myself the time and space to allow this to come in. I want to talk about Hadestown, the show, and how it relates to our twin flame sacred union path of ascension. I have also, because I had to do it in such a way, there was so much that was coming in as I was listening to the song. I created kind of like an outline. And writing is my medium. As much as I like doing these videos and everything, writing is my medium. Writing is my passion. Writing is what feels most naturally to me. And so what I've done is I have kind of used this outline as a template, and I wrote an essay too. So the essay will also be on the blog. It's a companion on the blog because it's like 6 pages long, my outline. So like I said, I write a lot. And so I have also written a companion essay for to go a little bit deeper, or to explain even further. Some people, you will understand it from verbally, some people will understand it through reading, some people will understand it deeper through having both. There are references to lyrics in here, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm not able to play the lyrics, but I will refer to them. If you're watching this through our free resource library and our Ascension Connections portal, I will be playing the lyrics, so you can hear it, and you can hear the power of the music. I say that because when I was listening to it, I didn't listen to the soundtrack all the way through at first. I started it's almost like it started coming into my awareness. I can't remember how I was directed there. I think I might have saw an advertisement for the cast getting together for London or something like that, and it sparked my interest again. And I started watching clips, and I said, "Oh, let's watch the bootleg. Oh, let's listen to the whole soundtrack on Spotify." And the more I listened, the more it was impacting me, the more it was, in essence, activating me, and activating that deep remembrance of this sacred love that I have felt across my whole lifetime. And if you are on the sacred union path of ascension, then you have likely felt that same energy of love since you were little. It was not anything that you have gone looking for. If you're on the twin flame journey, the sacred union path of ascension, and it is a true sacred union path of ascension journey, it is not anything that you have gone looking for. It is something that has always existed within you. And then when you met your counterpart, it activated that remembrance within you. It sparked that connection, sparked that connection to that love that you have always felt within yourself, that maybe you have even always been waiting for. Waiting for is an interesting word because it was the song Wait for Me in the musical Hadestown that sparked something and that ignited that universal truth of longing, faith, and destiny that I feel we have all on this sacred union path of ascension been a part of. It speaks to the core of connection, the desire for connection, and when there is an energy of separation, which we have felt throughout lifetimes, the courage to transcend that separation and walk into the unknown. It is a bridge. Your connection, your sacred union ascension path is a bridge between the seen and the unseen, the known and the unknown. And this is where faith is held. This is where we understand on a deeper level what faith is all about. And I'm not talking about faith as in something externally. I'm talking about faith, that deep inner knowing, your intuition. That faith, that knowing, is a recognition of the love that has always existed within you, the love that has always existed within all. It's a reminder that that love is a unifying thread. It's a thread that we have followed across lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes, and here we are now. And that's applied to our counterparts as well. We have been connected through this divine thread with our counterparts, traveling through lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes, experiencing moments of union and separation in those lifetimes, to come to this place here and now, in this lifetime, this moment, this time and space here and now, right here in this moment, to recognize that there is no separation, that union is all there is. And you have been journeying through the unconscious to become conscious. That is what your sacred union path of ascension is. Your ascension journey is journeying through the unconscious to become conscious of that love that you might have felt across lifetimes separated from, but that has always been within you. You are and always have been in union. I shared this in my book. It's in one of the final passages of my book, and I want to share it now. How I believe in sacred love. It's not something I always consciously understood, but it's something that I have always felt at the core of my being. It's part of why I think I've stayed single for so long. It was not that I was waiting for someone, it's that I was waiting for something intangible, something I wasn't aware of. It was like my heart knew what it was waiting for, even if I didn't. Even if I didn't. I have always believed that love is all we ever need. And on a soul level, I do know that this is absolutely true. John Lennon's quote, "Love is all you need." On a soul level, that is absolutely true. But through my ascension journey, I realized that within the bridge of the human experience, bridging our spiritual essence of knowing that love is all there is, and the human desires and the human needs being that bridge, understanding what it means to love on a deeper level, and that love actually has many different layers and many different levels. Love is the standards that we set for ourselves, the respect that we give and receive. It's how we nurture our own worth and our ability to express ourselves fully and authentically in a way that we liberate ourselves, in a way that also liberates others around us, and especially those that we're in relationship with. Whatever that relationship is, family, friendships, or romantic connection, love is a liberation, but it's only when we are living in that liberated love ourselves. Unconditional love truly is what it is. Love is also an active energy and how we show and share that love with ourselves and others. It's an active energy. It's a verb. It's something that moves. It's something that is created, constantly being created, constantly evolving. Love is also a belief that we hold, and our ascension journey returns us home to understanding that love is actually beyond belief, that love simply is. So we have beliefs that we pick up throughout our human experience, beliefs about love from experiences that we've had around love, coming from upbringing and childhood, coming from what we've witnessed in other relationships, coming what we've experienced ourselves, whether for the better or for the worse. Love is transcending beyond those beliefs and recognizing that love just simply is, and your ascension is the homecoming to that. I have felt this sacred love in every corner of my life for all of my life. I felt it when I was a child and talking to angels on the pink childhood carpet of my bedroom in my childhood home. I felt it in the ancient mountains of France when I was guided through my grief at my initial awakening way back in 2008. I felt it in the crucible of illness, and it was my saving grace back then. I felt it during a guided meditation when he sat beside me in silence, and I was moved to tears way before we were reconnected. And then I felt it when we were reconnected again. I felt it when I met my sacred partner. It is a love that is remembered, pure, unconditional, and eternal. And no matter what that looks like in the physical experience, it is something that is always connected to you. It is something that just is. No matter what the physical human experience dictates, no matter how it's playing out in your human existence, in the human story that you yourself are creating, you're creating your human story every moment and every day. No matter through your beliefs, through the patterns, through the cycles, through the assumptions, you're literally creating every moment and every day. And so it's a story that you're writing, it's a story that you're creating. And so when you remember your own divinity, you remember your connection to the divine, to God's source, and you remember your connection to your counterpart as one. And you remember that there has never been separation between you. It was just the story that was playing out, the story of separation that was playing out. You are and always have been in union. That has been your divine truth, because love is unconditional. Love is eternal. Love is a pure essence. You're remembering that. Your ascension journey is a remembering of that. So, with that as a foundation, we're going to dive deep into the story of Hadestown, the musical, and how that is a number one, the myth, the original Greek myth, and the retelling of Hadestown is the story of twin flames, sacred partners, divine counterparts, whatever label is most comfortable to you. How it is the the essence of the masculine and the feminine and the journey of sacred union and ascension. We're going to start with the story of Hadestown. And when I'm referencing Hadestown, I'm talking about the musical. I'm talking about the modern retelling of the Greek myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. And I will probably hesitate when I say Eurydice because all my life I used to read the Greek myths when I was in high school and college. And so all my life, somebody who read it would always say it in my mind differently. You would say Eurydice or something like that. And so I've had to kind of reprogram my mind to say Eurydice. So I might hesitate or I might say it wrong. So just bear with me and give me some grace here. So what this is about the original Greek myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, where Eurydice descends into the underworld, Hades' underworld, if you're familiar with Greek myth. And we'll talk about Hades and Persephone later on, who also play a part in not only the musical, but in the Greek myth. But Eurydice goes into the underworld, and Orpheus follows after her and is intent on bringing her back. And the story goes that he is tasked with leading her out of the underworld, but he cannot look back. If he looks back, then she is condemned to the underworld forever, and they're separated forever. So, Hadestown, the musical, is set against an industrial landscape, and the setting is super cool. If you ever get a chance to see the show, I've seen bootlegs against. I would love to see the show as a whole, but the setting is industrial, and so there are smokestacks, and it's a very rugged kind of set, which is a really interesting modern take on the Greek myth. And I think it really brings it into not only this century, but it helps us to relate to it, not only with regards to twin flames and sacred unions, but with regards to what we might be experiencing within ourselves, and our own kind of journey with regards to what we're seeing collectively. I'm not going to go into the collective energy today. There might be a follow up, I doubt it, but just consider if you listen to the soundtrack yourself or you see the show yourself, just consider how this could also be representative of the collective. Remember, we always say that your sacred union path of ascension is also reflective in what's happening globally. So you have your twin flame journey, your sacred union journey with your counterpart, but that is kind of the micro to the macro of what is also playing out in the collective energies of the masculine and the feminine on a global perspective from that whole planetary aspect. So you can also apply this to what's happening in the world today. Orpheus is a son of a muse, so he journeys to Hades underworld to rescue his beloved Eurydice. The story begins when Orpheus first meets Eurydice. He recognizes her light, her beauty, and her very essence. And this is similar to how the divine masculine recognizes the divine feminine first. I go into this in my book, The Unity Code, that the divine masculine will recognize the divine feminine first. You're activated to the journey at the same time. The divine feminine might be aware of the journey and maybe more aware of the concept and the terms twin flames or sacred union, divine feminine, divine masculine. She'll be more consciously aware of the journey as a whole, the blueprint as a whole, so to speak. But the divine masculine will recognize and notice the divine feminine first. Maybe he'll be the one to see her first. Maybe he'll be the one to fall in love first. Maybe he'll be the one to make a move first. But he will be the one to recognize the divine feminine first because he recognizes her by her light. Now, he might not be aware of this consciously. This is a soul recognition because this is a soul connection. You're recognizing each other's essences. You're recognizing each other's soul, which is one soul. So you're recognizing yourself in another. That is the twin flame sacred partner connection. You're recognizing yourself in another, but you might not be conscious of it. And you're not conscious of it. When you begin, when you're activated to your journey, you're not conscious of it. You're not fully aware of it. That's a natural progress as part of your ascension. So he's drawn to her. He has this deep sense of purpose. He has this feeling of protection for her. He is moved by her. The same thing happens with regards to what we see with Orpheus in the play. Orpheus immediately feels drawn to protect and care for Eurydice, whose own story begins in a place of survival. She's struggling in poverty, starvation, uncertainty. Winter's coming, creating famine. And so she is in a place where she is kind of withdrawn within herself. And Orpheus brings her back to life. Orpheus is idealistic. He is youthful. He is perhaps even a little bit naive. His gift is music. And as I was leaning into that, as I was getting insight onto that, I realized that we had just done a soul path reading with regards to the importance and value of music and how everybody has their own unique song. And you and your counterpart are actually singing the same song. You might not be aware of it. You might be at different keys at points. It might actually be a little bit off key, but you're singing the same song. You're always singing the same song. You are the same song. And it's only when you are balancing out the polarities that you're brought into harmony that it becomes this beautiful masterpiece. Your ascension journey is kind of learning the notes of each other. Your ascension journey is learning how to sing in harmony. But it is the same song. So check out the Soul Path reading. I will put a link in the description box, or if you're watching this in our Ascension Connections portal, I will put this as part of the companion readings or the companion channelings. So you have everything in one package in your dashboard. So he's writing a song that is not finished yet, a song to make spring come again, and Eurydice falls in love. And she asks him to sing some of this song, and she falls in love as he is singing some of this song. And him singing some of this song is what makes her come alive again. She feels alive again. Man, that hits. I'm going to get further into that, into the channeling, because we're going to talk about specific lyrics. But that's hitting now. Yeah, I think I'll get further into that later. So, going further into the story, winter comes early. Orpheus shifts his focus to continue his mission of writing his song to make spring again. So he, even though they are married, even though they're in love and they get married and they're together, he kind of shifts his focus away from Eurydice to focus on his mission of writing this song, finishing this song so that spring can come again. Because Hades has come and taken Persephone down into the underworld. And let's talk about Persephone for a minute. Persephone, as we know, is the goddess of fertility, the goddess of abundance, of love, of springtime. She is the one who brings abundance to the earth. And as Hades' wife, she spent half of the year at the surface of the earth and half the year in the underworld with Hades. So Hades has come and taken Persephone back into the underworld, and so the landscape is barren. Winter has come early. Everything is scarce, and people are struggling. So Eurydice is begging for him to finish it soon because the winter is getting harsher. It is getting colder. The land is barren. She's struggling to find firewood and food. She's intrigued by the security and the protection that Hadestown seems to offer. And so, drawn back into survival mode, she follows Hades into the underworld. When Orpheus discovers this, he decides to follow her and rescue her. Now, there's a lot more that happens with regards to the musical. I'm just kind of summing this up into a picture because I want to go deep into the analysis and how this is applied to Twin Flame, Sacred Union, and the Path of Ascension. So just to kind of summarize it and make it a shorter summary, he decides to follow her and rescue her. And in the play, the underworld is filled with underground workers and what is known as Hadestown. It's Hades' realm, so to speak. So it's known as Hadestown in the play. It's a grim realm filled with lost souls and laborers who are working for Hades. And Hades is depicted as this kind of, I guess you could call him a mob boss. He is only interested in riches, very materialistic, and making money and putting his workers to work. And it's a very grim reality for those who are in this underworld, who are in this Hades town. There's no sense of freedom or escape. And even though Hades will essentially paint this as a gilded cage, he paints this pretty picture of, well, you're safe here, you're protected here, you won't be lacking for anything. And yet, that's kind of the illusion. That's where Eurydice was kind of brought into the underworld. She was lacking that safety and that security with regards to the winter, and she was hungry and she was starving. She was cold and everything was barren. And so, and Orpheus was off finishing this song, and so she willingly went into the underworld with Hades under the guise, or I guess the promise of safety, protection, and security. And so what this actually is, it's a very grim reality. There's no hope. There's a feeling of faithlessness. There's a feeling of this lack of freedom, this lack of liberation. This Hadestown realm represents the shadow side. It's those who are trapped in cycles of survival without any hope or any vision of change. Then we have Orpheus, who, with his music and his bright idealistic outlook, is a very stark contrast to the despair that is all around him. He sings to himself, clinging to the belief that his love for Eurydice will be enough to free her and prove that love can overcome even the darkest of places, and he follows her into the underworld. There's a line that Persephone sings: "You gotta know your heart is full of love. You gotta trust the power of your heart to lead you home." And that is the core and the crux of Orpheus. He is, in essence, carrying that belief in love. And so he follows her into this underworld, and we'll get deeper into that later. So Orpheus pleads with Hades, and Hades offers him a deal. If Orpheus can lead Eurydice out of Hadestown without looking back at her, they'll both be free. It's a test, it's a trial of not just love, but of faith and trust. The underworld is dark, though, and Orpheus's doubt begins to creep in. Throughout the journey, Orpheus is unsure if Eurydice is truly behind him because everything is silent and still. The tension between trust and fear begins to intensify, and that doubt gets further and further into him. It begins to creep in further and further. The darkness of the underworld symbolizes the shadow world that often accompanies us on this twin flame ascension journey. It's a confrontation of the doubt, the insecurities, and the fears that challenge our own faith and trust. It's our own questioning. Is our counterpart with us? Even if I can't see them, even if we're in separation, even if we're in no contact or no communication, are they still with us on this journey? Am I even on this journey? Hermes, who is kind of like the narrator of the musical, sings, "The meanest dog you'll ever meet, he ain't the hound dog in the street. He bares some teeth and tears some skin, but brother, that's the worst of him. The dog you really got to dread is the one that howls inside your head. It's him whose howling drives men mad and a mind to its undoing." That's the doubt that creeps in. That's the ego that says that what you're seeing is all there is. And that's what gets Orpheus in the end. So Eurydice is walking behind him, but Orpheus can't hear her steps or see her. It's making him question whether she's truly following him. And this moment becomes just so symbolic of our journey. This is where the song, "Wait for me, I'm coming," comes into play. Wait for me, I'm coming. Wait for me, I'm coming with you. Wait for me, I'm coming too. And I'm going to play that, a few bars of it now. Man, that always gets me. That is like hitting to the core. Because in essence, what you're doing is you're waiting for each other. As Orpheus nears the exit of Hadestown, he's filled with this overwhelming doubt. The voices in his head get louder. The questions get stronger, and he gives in to that temptation. His belief in the love that he shares with Eurydice falters, and the temptation to look back grows even stronger. And so he does. He looks back at Eurydice, and when they are so close to that freedom, when they are so close to that union, and it's in essence, it's a tragic moment that highlights not only the human struggle, but also repeating patterns of doubt and questions, lack of faith, lack of trust in ourselves and in each other. And that is what the ascension journey is here to teach us. It's here to break us out of the cycle. The moment Orpheus looks back, he breaks his pact with Hades, and Eurydice is pulled back into the underworld. It marks the end of their potential reunion. And it also serves as a powerful lesson on the twin flame journey that your own fear and your own doubt can prevent your own union. You have to trust what is inside of you. You have to trust your own knowing. You have to trust your own self. You have to trust your own knowing, even when all the circumstances or the external world seems like it is the complete opposite of what you know to be true inside your soul. Now, I'm going to pause here and just say that does not mean that you ignore your external experiences or your external world. That's what we teach here. We teach the balance between the human and the spiritual. But union isn't about seeking something externally. Your ascension journey isn't about holding on to only what's happening externally. Your ascension journey is about going deep within and anchoring into the heart, knowing what's in the heart, creating from the heart. Your ascension journey is about holding space. It's not about either or. It's not about union within or union without. It's not about the internal world or the external world. It is about both. It's an and. It's about recognizing that as you hold that union within, then you reflect that in your external world. As you hold that faith and that trust within, then you experience that in your external world. And not only just with your counterpart, but in a number of different ways. With regards to your relationships with all, with regards to your connection with the world around you, your relationship with money, your relationship with family, your relationship with friendships, your relationship with your work, your service, your relationship with all. Everything is interconnected. Everything plays a part, but everything comes from within you first. The play ends by resetting. It goes back to the beginning. It represents the cycles that we all go through until we break them. And again, that's what our ascension journey is all about. It's about breaking the cycles of the past. That is the healing work that we do. That is the remembrance work that we do. There's a lyric that says, it's an old song, but we're going to sing it again. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it again and sing it again until we get it right. Until we dispel the illusion of separation. Until we write a new story. Until we are so anchored and embodied into ourselves that we remember that union is always within. We trust that. We have faith in that. And so we're having faith and trust in our counterparts because we're having that faith and trust in ourselves. We're not feeding into the doubts. We're not feeding into the questions. We're not seeking externally for that validation, but we're anchoring into the trust within ourselves. Your ascension journey, you have been breaking patterns and cycles that lived in the unconscious, but your superpower is bringing it to light. Your superpower is bringing the unconscious to the conscious, and that is where you have the power to shift. That is where you have the power to take new actions and make new choices. That is where you break the patterns. That is where you break the cycles. That is where you don't look back to the past. That is where you create the new right here and right now. You decide right here and right now, what do you want to believe? What do you want to have faith in? And this is not naive faith. This is not blind faith. Again, we are the bridge between the human and the spiritual. But it is about connecting within, connecting to your counterpart within, connecting to their higher self, their energy within. If their external experience, if their human self is behaving in a way that is not respectful of you or is not indicative of that authentic embodiment that you have become, that is not indicative of your values, etc., then it's not about attaching to someone. It's about honoring the energy of what you know is true and feeling into that. It's about having those boundaries, in essence. And so I please ask you to put this teaching here, this channeling here, into the context of all of our teachings with regards to sacred unions, twin flames, and the journey that you might be on. Put it into context. Your twin flame journey is not meant to trap you. Your twin flame journey, sacred union journey, is meant to liberate you and call you back to what sacred union truly is about. It is about love. It is about love, not attachment, not keeping you trapped. It is about liberation in that love. And so I'll point you to my book, The Unicode, to dive deeper into the whole context of our teachings and the whole context of the twin flame sacred union path of ascension. Okay, now let's get into the deep dive. I want to talk about how Orpheus and Eurydice are representative of the Divine Masculine and the Divine Feminine, who are going through their own twin flame ascension journey within the musical context, or as I like to call it, the Sacred Union Path of Ascension. I don't like to use the word twin flames because I feel like it has gotten very corrupted, very manipulated, and even hijacked within the spiritual community. Twin flame is a sacred energy. Twin flame is, in essence, it's a label to describe the energy of sacred love that you experience with another person. Now, there are different labels of connections. You can have a karmic connection, somebody who is here to challenge you, to teach you through the lessons, through the growth. You can have a soulmate, somebody who is here to support you and love you, somebody who is very familiar to your soul family, for example, soul sisters and soul brothers. And twin flame is an energy that is you. They are your ultimate mirror. They are your divine match, so to speak, because they are you. It is, in essence, one soul that is experienced in two different bodies. Now, those two different bodies, you might have parallel experiences and parallel lives, but you also have your own memories, your own experiences, your own thoughts. You're not twins in that everything is the same. In fact, with twin flames, it's a union of opposites. It's the yin and the yang, the union of opposites coming together. It's the polarities of the masculine and the feminine coming together in that wholeness, in that oneness. And your counterpart on the external is reflective of the masculine and the feminine polarity that you hold within. So when we talk about inner union, we're talking about how it's important for you to come into that harmony, come into that balance, and come into that union within yourself, that wholeness within yourself, by balancing out your inner masculine and your inner feminines. And then that is when you have that inner conscious relationship within your external relationship, within your external world with your sacred partner or your twin flame divine counterpart, whatever you want to call it. Now, there's nuance there, as there always is, with regards to the definitions that I just applied around karmic connections and soulmate connections. Recognize that everything is the energy of love. And so we only use those labels to help differentiate between what those soul connections are and what they might mean for our journey. They're just labels to help us differentiate. They're not meant to have you attach or create more division. For example, karmic connections can be loving too. They can be supportive too. Somebody who is here just to help teach you a lesson or just to support you in a specific challenge. Even karmic connections that are more toxic, for example, they are here to maybe show you how to have more boundaries or how to step away from toxic energy or how to express yourself more fully. So looking at it from the bigger perspective, from the wider perspective of the soul, through the lens of the soul, through that lens of love, is always going to be what your ascension journey is about, what your ascension journey is teaching you. Not just looking at it through the lens of the human perspective, from the lens of the ego, and creating more division there, but saying, okay, how is this person, whatever connection it might be, helping me to grow, supporting me in my growth? And again, I go deep into soulmates, karmic connections, and twin flames in my book, in those teachings there. So Orpheus represents the divine masculine. Eurydice represents the divine feminine. I'm going to start at the beginning. So I shared the story of Hadestown, the story of the Greek myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, but I'm going to start kind of at the beginning as we dive deeper into this analysis as far as understanding how they are portraying the divine masculine and the divine feminine. So again, Orpheus recognizes Eurydice first. The divine masculine recognizes the divine feminine first. He brings her to life in essence. He makes her feel alive, activates her, wakes her up, drawing her out of hiding from within herself. There's a lyric that he sings, "Hey little songbird, why do you hide?" He is drawing her out of herself, and that hit home because for myself, that's exactly what I experienced within my own connection. I've been going through a healing journey of my physical body and my spiritual journey as well. Before I met my counterpart, I was going through a self-love journey through the catalyst of my experience with illness. And it was only when I had reached a point of loving myself again, even through the illness, that is when I met my counterpart. In essence, I was finding myself again. And that's when my counterpart came in and really drew me fully out of myself, where I had been maybe a little bit withdrawn. Now, I want to put this into context, or I want to narrow down on this and share that it was because I was at such a point in my own self-healing journey, in my own self-awareness, and in my own self-love, that he was able to come in and mirror back to me that love that I had already done within myself. And he enhanced that. He enhanced that activation within me, that awakening within me. It wasn't that he saved me from myself. I was already doing that myself, but it was that he was bringing me back to life. The biggest example I know is that I've always loved the woods. I played in the woods when I was a kid, but because I was sick with Lyme disease for 15 to 20 years when I was first diagnosed, I had gotten sick with Lyme disease unknowingly when I was 12 or 13 years old, and we didn't know that until I was in my late 20s. And that was in 2012 when I finally got a diagnosis after I was really severely decaying. My heart was failing. I was having neurological issues. I was bedridden for the most part. And so I was afraid. I was afraid of going into the woods. I didn't go into the woods. I was even afraid of taking a step out into my own backyard, because I was so afraid of nature and what could be lurking there, knowing that something I had once loved had made me ill. Lyme disease, as you know, is caused by ticks that lurk in the woods and that are in backyards and etc. So that into context, he brought me back to life in a way that my trust in him, I would follow him into the woods again. We would go on these hikes, and he would lead the way, and my heart told me to trust him. And through that trust on our excursions, so to speak, I fell back in love with the woods. And I didn't fear going into the woods. I didn't fear nature anymore. And in fact, I connected intimately with nature again. And as I was activated to my ascension journey, I connected spiritually with nature again. So he woke up that part of me. And that's what Orpheus was essentially doing to Eurydice. He was the springtime, the song of spring to her barren winter. This is the divine feminine's ascension activation into higher levels of love. Again, you might be going through your journey already, a spiritual journey, a self-discovery, a self-love journey, but your counterpart will activate you to higher levels of that. A love that is embodied, your authentic self. Where are you hiding? Drawing out the places where you might still be hiding, drawing out the places where you still might not have healed. The places that might still be kind of sequestered in the subconscious or the unconscious, drawing that to light. Your counterpart will draw that out of you. You, the divine feminine, you go first in your ascension journey, where you are doing that healing work, doing that energy work. You are bringing the unconscious to light. You're examining your beliefs about yourself and about love, and you're propelled onto this higher level journey of soul growth and discovery. And that's why I always say that your ascension journey is like a whole new ball game. You might be going through a number of spiritual awakenings prior to this, but when you're activated, especially with a counterpart, it's like a whole new ball game because your counterpart is your divine mirror. Your counterpart is the ultimate mirror. Your counterpart is going to be showing you things that maybe you were not able to see for yourself. They are shining the light for you. Just as you do for them, they're shining the light for you on yourself, even the shadows. The parts of yourself that not just the shadows as far as like the negative things, but even the things that you maybe didn't see about yourself, that you maybe didn't like about yourself or love about yourself. You know, there are things that you might have hid away from yourself. Like for me, it was my goofy, silly side. I became so serious. My counterpart would always say, "You're so serious," and it's because I had experienced so much in my life that I had kind of suppressed that goofy, silly side because life up until a certain point or within a certain point had become just about struggle, it become just about survival and suffering. And so I hid that springtime of myself away. He brought that back out of me. Your twin flame or sacred partner is only showing you yourself. They're not bringing anything out of you that is not already inside of yourself. They're only showing you yourself. When I was doing my inner child healing, I recognized that I used to be a ham. I used to sing and make up lyrics and songs and make my family laugh, and I was a goofy silly kid, and then some trauma happened and I kind of hid that part of myself away, and I took on a lot of responsibility and a lot of role of caretaker and a lot of I grew up too fast. And my counterpart with along with his daughter brought that out in me, brought out that side of me, helped me rediscover that about myself again because he held up the mirror. Your counterpart will always be holding up the mirror, reflecting to you. They are not someone outside of yourself. They might be a physical presence, but their energy is reflecting you, is always reflective of you. Now, everybody is going to be reflective of us. Your family, your friends, your coworkers, strangers in the street, your experiences, everything is going to be a reflection of an aspect of you. But your twin flame or sacred partner is the ultimate mirror. You can't hide from it because you can't hide from yourself. So there's a lyric that Eurydice sings. She says, "All I've ever known is how to hold my own, but now I want to hold you too." The divine feminine and the distorted energy doesn't know how to receive. She doesn't know how to accept. Perhaps because she's been in too much of a masculine energy. That's her own survival mechanism. When you go into your survival mechanism, you're in your masculine energy. You don't know how to accept care from others. You only perhaps know how to give. That's going to look different for everybody. But people pleasers, for example, you're actually in a distorted feminine energy because you're in too much of your masculine energy. It's a survival mode. It's something that is learned. It's a condition. It's a belief that you hold, but beliefs don't have to be true. Beliefs can shift. Beliefs can be flexible. So the divine masculine mirrors the divine feminine's templates of faith and of knowing that you'll come together. Again, when you're activated, it's mostly unconscious. However, the feminine knows that there's something here. The feminine knows that this is a template of love. The feminine knows intuitively, even if she doesn't have the words yet. And through her journey, which again, she goes through her ascension first, she will have that more and more of that conscious understanding. Her gifts will expand, her spirituality will expand, her knowing will expand because she's trusting her intuition, because she's going within. The journey is one within. But the masculine will recognize that first. My own masculine, who I've known since we were kids, once told me that he always knew we would be part of each other's life. He just didn't know how. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that until we were activated to our ascension, that this is somebody that is important to me. This is somebody that always has been important to me. Um, this too is part of the journey, going from the unconscious to the conscious state of the connection of what you mean to each other. I'm going to play another song here. It's called All I've Ever Known from the musical Hadestown. And in it, Orpheus is singing, "I don't know how or why. Who am I that I should get to know you? It's like I've known you all along. I knew you before we met, I don't even know you yet. All I know is you're someone I have always known. There's a couple of things to those lyrics. Number one is Orpheus's own feelings of almost like inadequacy that we see in the Divine Masculine. He says, I don't know how or why. Who am I that I should get to hold you? Who am I? Am I even worthy of you? And that is a common refrain in the masculines that they experience, especially in the light and the essence of the divine feminines. Again, divine feminines, you are activating your divine masculine just as much as your divine masculine is activating you. You're holding up a mirror to them and reflecting, perhaps bringing to the conscious state, bringing to the surface their own feelings of maybe inadequacy or self-worth, questioning themselves. But that is part of their journey. That is part of what they're overcoming. But they feel that connection. You both feel that connection. And this is a connection that has lasted not only across lifetimes, but for eternity. You are one. You are one. And when your soul was created, which it has always been, when it was created together. When you are talking about twin flame sacred partners, you are one soul experiencing itself in two different bodies for your accelerated ascension. You are one soul just in two different embodiments. And your union is remembering the oneness. Your union is remembering that there is no separation between the masculine and the feminine. There is no separation within, and that's where you heal that separation within. You balance the polarities and harmonize the polarities within. All I know is you're someone I have always known. That is the soul recognition. The divine feminine begins her ascension journey first. So even though the masculine will recognize the feminine and by her essence and even in essence fall in love with her first, he might not say that, but there is this soul love, this soul recognition. The ego might get in the way and try to push it away, but the soul knows. And part of the ego, that's the journey. Part of it is the ego stepping in the way, and that's what you are clearing. You're clearing the ego. You're clearing all the illusion of separation, and the ego is just that illusion of separation. The ego is patterns. The ego is beliefs based on past experiences, and this could be past experiences within this lifetime or past experiences within other lifetimes where you might have experienced that separation with each other. But you're remembering. That's why this ascension journey here and now in this space and time is so important, because you are remembering that you have always been in union. You are clearing all of those templates of separation. So the divine feminine begins her ascension journey first, and it's that journey of remembrance, that journey of bringing the unconscious to the conscious. And the divine masculine will hold the space for the divine feminine and her journey, where she, in essence, goes into the underworld of herself. This is healing the trauma. This is clearing energy. This is healing beliefs or shifting beliefs, deconstructing beliefs. This is all of what you've experienced on your ascension journey, the deep healing of that shadow work of what your journey is. The shadow is the underworld. And so she will go into the underworld of herself to discover herself and to discover also her own inner masculine, that she's not seeking outside of herself for somebody to protect her or to be her savior, but she's recognizing that within herself. Now, in balance, the divine feminine, in harmony with herself, in union with herself, the divine feminine recognizes that it's not about going into the other extreme of hyper independence and I've got this all, I can do it all myself. She, in her divine essence, allows herself to receive and give, allows herself to take care of herself, and allows herself to be supported. So when we're talking about the masculine template of safety, security, and presence within herself, it's not that she's pushing anything away, it's that she's also recognizing that that exists within herself too. Remember, it's not an either or, it's an and. That is the middle path of our ascension. So anything that she was seeking externally, for example, Eurydice, she is feeling these pangs of hunger and she's looking at this barren landscape and she's seeking this protection and this safety, and Orpheus kind of goes off and he's working on his mission, he's working on his song, and so she turns to Hades, for example, and she sees him as this kind of protector. And so that's where like you might go to, if you're in a more of an unconscious state, if you're not on the healing journey or you're not aware of the healing journey, you might go to other relationships or other experiences to provide that for you until you recognize that you discover that within yourself, until you recognize that it is a journey of self-empowerment, that you're not looking to other people or other situations or other environments to provide that for you. It is within yourself. That is what your journey is. It's a homecoming to yourself, a recognition of all of that within yourself. This is your own template of faith that you're connecting to. So the Divine Masculine then follows in his journey. He will then undergo his own journey into the underworld, his own ascension. So let's take Eurydice's lack of faith as an example. She was looking at her physical world to guide her, and if you're looking at the external world, for example, she's seeing it as scarce, it's barren, she's hungry, there's no food, there's no firewood, everything is winter, and so it's plunging her back into old patterns of fear and survival because she's only looking at the external. She's not looking within, she's not looking at her ability to help herself. She's not looking at her own inner masculine, or she's not number of things. It could be anything. In this example, she is not having enough faith or trust in perhaps Orpheus or his song, so that she plunges back into that survival. That is the energy of, well, I don't need him. I can do it all myself. Right? And we can get into that energy. We can get into that. It's like a resistance. We can get into that energy of, well, I'll just do this. If he's going to act like this, then I'll just do this. That's an ego pattern. That's a defense mechanism, right? A true unconditional love is holding space for the connection, even in non-communication or no connection. If there's no communication or no contact, a true divine energy is recognizing that your counterpart has their journey and has their experiences, and you have yours, and you're holding space together. In the higher realms, from the higher perspective, you're holding space together, and you can hold unconditional love. That's where unconditional love comes in, to allow for him his journey. And if it's not part of yours yet, then that's where you hold that space and that energy of unconditional love, and that's where you continue your journey. That's where you continue to focus on yourself and focus on your passions and becoming your highest self. Not by going deep into, like Eurydice, she kind of de-evolved. She kind of went back into her survival mechanism, right? She went back into her survival patterns of, well, if he's going to be over here, then I'm going to do this, and that there's no judgment there. That is survival. That is patterns that are replaying and replaying and replaying until you break them. And our ascension journey is all about breaking those patterns. So she sings, for example, I'm trying to believe that the song he's working on is going to shelter me from the wind, the wind, the wind. And I'll play that now for those of you who are on the Ascension Connections portal. So because she is repeating unconscious patterns, because she's going back into that survival mode, she goes into the underworld of herself to face those shadows. And this is akin to separation between counterparts. Just like Orpheus is off writing his song for spring, it looks like your Divine Masculine isn't here, but his journey is always connected to you. He's still connected to you. Can you have that faith despite what might be showing itself or presenting itself on the physical surface? There's always more beneath the surface. Can you have that faith? Can you find that within yourself to hold that space? It doesn't mean putting your life on hold, but it means holding that love, that unconditional love, and that faith within yourself. Let's also consider this as a necessary part of the journey, where if you're yourself in a barren landscape, for example, no contact and no communication, you're not meant to starve yourself in waiting. For example, Eurydice sings, Orpheus, my heart is yours, always was and will be. It's my gut I can't ignore. Orpheus, I'm hungry. We can look at this through the lens of the feminine learning how to have those boundaries, not to neglect herself, not to abandon herself in the waiting. You're not meant to wait by putting yourself in a holding pattern. You're not meant to wait by keeping yourself stuck, because then that keeps the whole connection stuck. She can't ignore her intuition that she has her own journey. that she needs to follow her own passions, her own light, etc., without staying stuck. And so, again, remember that two things can coexist. You can hold space for the love that you know within your heart and soul without putting yourself and your life on hold, without creating more of that underworld within yourself, without creating those patterns and continuing those shadow patterns of yourself. So, after the Divine Feminine goes through her ascension, the Divine Masculine will follow. Through your ascension, you've gone through the underworld of yourself. Again, this is healing trauma, grief, old beliefs, etc. Your masculine, in his love for you, will follow. Your masculine loves you so unconditionally much. Your sacred partner, your twin flame, energetically loves you so unconditionally much that they will follow you into their own ascension journey. It will activate their own ascension journey, and they will go into the underworld of themselves, the shadow of themselves. And sometimes, if you are together with your counterpart, you might see that shadow playing out. And that's where, again, you are meant to have your boundaries, Divine Feminine. You're meant to not keep yourself stuck in repeating patterns. You're meant to hold space, but not keep yourself in a place of the shadow. So, just like Orpheus follows Eurydice into the underworld, your masculine is following you into their own ascension journey, which is deeper and deeper and deeper into themselves. That's the ascension journey. It is an inner spiral into the core of who you are. And as you go deeper and deeper into the core of who you are releasing all of that, what I like to call soul sludge, anything in the unconscious that is not truly you, anything that is not connected to the love and the soul of who you truly are. It's just the conditioning, society and authority figures and environments and trauma and experiences that make you believe this is who you are. Your ascension brings you into the core of who you truly are, to meet yourself, to recognize yourself. Another lyric from Hadestown. To get to Hadestown, you have to take the long way down. Ain't no compass and ain't no map. In the show, Hermes asks Orpheus if he really wants to go and follow Eurydice into the underworld. With all my heart, Orpheus explains. Well, that's a start, Hermes says. Think about that for a moment. With all my heart. With all my heart. Your masculine might not recognize and be conscious of the journey that they're on, but the masculine usually plays things out in their physical experiences. And only through those physical experiences will they gain more insight and more wisdom and the bigger picture. One of the struggles of the Divine Feminine is that she has the whole blueprint in her head. She can see the whole journey. She can see the union. She can see how love is a great unifier for you both, and how resistant to that love is just blocking everything. She can see the bigger perspective of what this journey is. She sees it all. The masculine typically has to play things out as part of their own journey and part of their own experience. Doesn't mean that the masculine is not spiritual. It does not mean that they don't have their own wisdom or their own intuition. They absolutely do. But they are operating more often within the unconscious state, or I should say this too, like Orpheus, they operate more in ego doubt and ego questioning of themselves to learn how to trust themselves and their intuition. That's them aligning with the feminine energy. That's what we teach in the Unicode. That's what we teach in our sacred channelings and energy updates, that they are more so aligning with the feminine energy within themselves to begin to trust, to begin to have faith in their intuition and follow their intuition. That's the feminine energy. And so in the unconscious state, at the start of their ascension journey, they might start more in that doubt, that questioning. They might question their own wisdom. They might question their own self. That's where they resist. That's where they block, especially this connection. This connection it can feel scary. This connection, the deep essence of this love, unconditional love, if you have gone through experiences and traumas and etc. with regards to what you believe love to be, you might create your own resistance to that. But the more they experience, the more they're going to trust themselves and trust their inner wisdom that they're receiving. So, gosh, this song always gets me. So, Orpheus follows Eurydice down into the underworld, and he sings, "Wait for me, I'm coming with you. Wait for me, I'm coming too." In the show, in the musical, Orpheus is tasked with leading her home. And that is exactly what the masculine essentially does. He is the leader. He leads her home. And Divine Feminines, this is your own inner masculine too. This is what you're healing on your ascension journey, is you're recognizing that it's not separate. Your masculine is not separate from you. Your masculine is not outside of yourself. It is your internal masculine and feminine energies. And then you experience that in your connection. So your masculine, your physical masculine, being that mirror, even in that perceived separation, even in that contact or no communication or silence or whatever it is, however it is that they're acting, whatever their journey is, that is also teaching you, showing you, reflecting to you. They're leading you through their own journey and their own actions further and further home to yourself. As Orpheus is leading her home, it's a test of faith and trust for him too. Can he trust that she's behind him, even if he can't hear or see her? And this is a question for you too, Divine Feminine. Can you trust your masculine? Can you trust what your masculine is doing? Can you trust his soul journey? It does not mean that you have to accept or adhere to whatever's going on in the physical world. Some people deal with addiction. Some people deal with financial struggles. Some people deal with other relationships and other families and all sorts of things on their ascension journey. It does not mean that you have to deal with, I don't want to say the word deal with, it does not mean that you have to just accept toxic behavior or toxic energy. But what is he showing you? On the soul level, we're looking at this always from the soul perspective. From the soul level, what is this showing you about yourself? Can you trust in this journey within versus looking outside of yourself and trying to determine, oh, is union happening or not happening just because they're communicating or not communicating, or just because they're doing this or not doing that? Rather than looking at the external to decide what your life is or what your journey is, can you trust within? Can you trust the journey that you are both on? For Orpheus, the question is, will the voices in his head, his doubts, his insecurities, his fears get the better of him? And the question pertains to you too, Divine Feminines. Will your own fears and insecurities that are being brought to the surface, that are being highlighted now, get the better of you? You're being asked to look in the mirror. You're being asked to go within. You're being asked to clear those triggers. Those triggers, those questions, those doubts, those fears are just holes. They're holes that you plug with more love, holes that you plug with more awareness, holes that you plug with a higher level of consciousness. In the end of the show, the shadow of doubt is too great. And so Orpheus looks back, and that propels Eurydice back into the underworld, and the show resets. This show resetting is indicative of how this is a cycle. And again, this is the cycle that you are breaking. And this is why embodiment is so important. For the Divine Masculine to become truly conscious and embody conscious Divine Masculine, for him to properly lead, he has to have faith and trust in the feminine. And Divine Feminine, for you to attract and connect with the conscious Divine Masculine, you have to have faith and allow the masculine to lead too. This is the cycle that you're breaking on the sacred union path of ascension. I want to mention too that Hades and Persephone also reflect this twin flame journey. Persephone we know as the queen of the underworld. She lives with Hades 6 months out of the year. She's the goddess of fertility, abundance, seasons of life, etc. She too represents the Divine Feminine, though perhaps in a much more healed way, a sacred way, where she is the balance of dark and light, creation and destruction. And she teaches us the cyclical nature of nurturing and letting go, death and rebirth. She's a guide for the path of healing and transformation, and she helps us to navigate both worlds. Her returning to the earth every 6 months represents this rebirth and this rejuvenation of love. And these cycles that are death and rebirth, these cycles that are repeating, but that there's always a chance of renewal, a renewal of love, so to speak. So she asks us to have faith in separation and believe in reunion or union. And in the song Flowers in Hadestown, she sings, "You plant the seed, I'll make it grow." That is how the divine feminine is an amplifier of whatever the masculine gives. At the core energy, at the core, her core being, she is an amplifier. So the masculine gives, the feminine receives, and she amplifies that energy for whatever it is that she's given. Hades, interestingly enough, representative of the masculine, but almost like a distorted masculine, having a chance to become the divine masculine because he descends more into materialistic ways. And that's what we see in the masculine template in this world is the masculine might be more focused on, their status. They might be more focused on how much money they make. They might be more focused on their job. They might be more focused on how they appear, for example, everything materialistic, when that is not the conscious masculine. That is not the divine masculine. And so through Hadestown, through this show, where he's focused on riches and fortune, Persephone says she doesn't even recognize him anymore. So it's interesting. There's like almost like a de-evolution, like a descent for Hades himself, which is interesting. Him being the god of the underworld. So rather than acknowledging this and shifting himself, what he does in his distorted template is he seeks out someone who would appreciate Hadestown and all the protection and security that it has to offer. And that's where he comes across Eurydice. So again, this is indicative of the distorted masculine running from the divine feminine because she is shining light on his shadows. She is calling him out on, I don't even recognize you. This is not who you are. I know this isn't who you are. You're more than this. You're more than you're portraying yourself to be. And so in the play, she and Hades also go through their own journey of transformation. And she is recognized as not just his wife. She says, "I'm not just your wife. I'm not subservient to you. You don't control me." But she reminds him of her sovereignty. She reminds him of her own authority, of her own power. And so in the end, love is actually what balances Hades out and keeps him from continuing to devolve into these toxic ways. And love is what gives Hades the opportunity to give Orpheus and Eurydice the chance. And even though he presents it as a task, as a test for him, he gives them the chance to be free. This is the ripple effect. Orpheus and Eurydice's love in their underworld is a source of light for others. And this is what I call and have always called the twin flame cosmic effect. We talk a lot about how everything is interconnected and how everything has a ripple effect. And the love that you share shines a light for all. The healing that you do has a ripple effect and affects all on a cellular level, on an energetic level, and you start to see that in everything in your life. You start to see that in your relationships. You start to see that in your friendships. You start to see that in your work, in your money. You especially start to see that as you heal into that union within yourself, as you come into that peace, those higher frequency energies of love and joy and union and just those higher frequencies, you begin to see how that higher level of consciousness has a ripple effect. Your love, your light in its conscious and healed state has a ripple effect because you become a source of hope and faith for others. You hold the template, and this is what we talk about in our channelings. You are leadership by example. You are truly leading by example. It's not necessarily what you do, it's the energy that you hold, the higher frequency energy and the higher level of consciousness energy that you hold and that you embody that plays a part and has a ripple effect, not just on others, but on the planet as a whole. So I wanted to bring this up too because it's important, just like when you come into union with your counterpart, for example, and that harmony and balance with your physical counterpart, your sacred partner, it is amplified. So you're amplifying that energy within yourself, within your own inner union. And then when you come into connection, physical connection and physical relationship and union with your counterpart, it is then amplified doubly. It has this cosmic effect. It's like the energy of a supernova creating a new world is what we once created, and I talked about in my book as well. Again, it's the energy of love that amplifies, and it's so great that it leads by example, offers others hope and faith and inspiration. Because love is hope, love is faith, love is inspiring, love is that pure unconditional energy. And so the workers in the underworld in Hadestown, for example, they are inspired by Orpheus's song and Orpheus and Eurydice's love for each other. And they sing, "Show the way so we can see, show the way the world can be. If you can do it, so can she. If she can do it, so can we. Show the way, show the way, show the way the world can be. Show the way so we believe. We will follow where you lead. We will follow you. Show the way." And again, if you're watching this on the Ascension Connections portal, I'm going to sing I'm not going to sing, God help me. I'm going to share a portion of the song here. And that song is the reprise of Wait For Me. If you are looking to listen to it on like Spotify or something. So, final thoughts and final lessons from Hadestown with regards to our Sacred Union Ascension journey. Orpheus reminds us that love is worth believing in, even when the odds seem stacked against us. He walks through the darkness with nothing but his song and nothing but faith, and that's exactly what we're called to do on our own journeys. This isn't about chasing or forcing, it's about trusting. That's what faith is. It's about knowing that love is already there. It's always been there. Your union is already there, has always been there. It's not about seeking outside of yourself, but about finding that within. Even if we can't see how it's going to unfold in our physical experiences, it's recognizing that you create from that inner knowing, you create from that love within. Love, like Orpheus' song, is a force that guides us through the darkness. It is a force that is so powerful. It is a force that lights the way. So trust it, follow it, and know that it's always bringing you home. That's why times are hard. It's because the gods have forgotten the song of their love, is another lyric of Hadestown. This is your ascension journey. This is your remembrance. This is why times are hard. It's because we've forgotten. We've forgotten our own empowerment. We've forgotten that love within ourselves, the power of love within ourselves. That's what we're coming home to. That's what we're remembering. And that is what your Twin Flame Sacred Union Path of Ascension is showing you. And to end with the final lyric from Hadestown, to the world we dream about and the one we live in now. I am sending you all so much love and so much light. Have a happy holiday, however you celebrate, and we'll be back in the new year. Sending lots of love and lots of light. See you soon.